Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy this video, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next one is uploaded. We appreciate all comments, whether positive or negative, because it is very important to ventilate both sides of any issue. All we ask is that you observe the YouTube community guidelines. We'd like to urge those of you who haven't yet done so, to sign our online petition for an inquiry into the BBC and Channel 4's coverage of Lewis Hamilton and Abu Dhabi. A link has been provided in the description. If you are on X, then please repost our tweet. Thank you. Well folks, we don't mean to brag, and we don't mean to gloat, but in our March 2022 video, Why McLaren's Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo backed Michael Masi despite the Lewis Hamilton theft, we cautioned Lando about what would happen if he was ever in a title race against Max Verstappen, the establishment's anointed.
To make statements supporting Masi to varying degrees, so that Liberty Media can cynically circulate reports around the world, to spread the false narrative that a growing number of drivers were backing Masi, at a time when their chief gaffer, Martin Brundle, was supposedly calling for his dismissal. Ironically, instead of worrying about Masi, Ricciardo should be more concerned about the fact that Sack opted to put his teammate ahead of him in that fake report. Lando, for his part, should be more concerned about what will happen if he should be in a position to compete against the establishment's anointed champion, Max. Karma is a boomerang.
We also pointed out in another video, exposing the fake F1 report designed to undermine Sir Lewis Hamilton and promote Max Verstappen, that the then McLaren team principal Zak Brown had colluded with John Malone and Liberty Media to defend Max Verstappen, so that McLaren would become the number one team in F1. Well, here we are just over 2 years down the line, McLaren are the number one team, and Lando has had to concede the driver's title to Max, who has continued to be protected by McLaren and the FIA at key moments during the season. This is what Liberty Media have turned Formula One into. They manipulate races as they see fit, they want the black goat out, and they want Verstappen to overhaul him statistically. As you can see, already both BBC Sport and Sky Sport have adopted all white banners, so it's just a matter of time before all sports are all white. Unfortunately for them, they have run into the problem that Ferrari have added another black stallion to their stables. In addition, the F1 audience are very different to the WWE audience, so Max's contrived dominance is playing so badly that they have had to find ways of scaling it down. Selling a fake narrative to the converted in one jurisdiction is one thing, but trying to sell it to a global F1 audience is quite another. And Liberty Media are routinely coming unstuck, as they have been doing since Abu Dhabi. But just because his courtiers claim not to see his nakedness, the rest of us can and will continue to call it out. As our regular visitors may recall, in our previous video, Lewis Hamilton and the desperate search for redemption at USGP after Drive to Survive Abu Dhabi. We pointed out that the Brits are trying desperately to keep false hope alive. Something that corroborates our long-stated conclusion that McLaren have long been running defense for Verstappen. And now Malone and his snake oil salesmen masquerading as journalists wish to gaslight people into believing that the great Lando can possibly overhaul a 52-point advantage in the remaining 6 races. The third article points out that it would take a victory by the great Lando and 0 points for Verstappen in the US Grand Prix to halve the deficit. But it also points out that anything less would practically confirm the title procession. It is ironic that the fourth article in the top stories from the Dutch Google search is the UK Guardian newspaper. Of course, they also reference the 52-point gap between the supposed title challenger, but critically, unlike the other Dutch references to the gap, The Guardian puts the 52 points in the context of the maximum 180 points available from the last 6 races. Well, this is a disingenuous attempt to misinform, by a newspaper complaining about bad actors, spreading disinformation online to fuel intolerance. With the 52 out of 180 context, they are deliberately misleading their domestic readers about the true nature of the British challenger's chances. Now let's see how Liberty Media and its snake oil salesman will fare in selling this title race story after the weekend. And lo and behold, here we are. With 5 races to go, including the Mexican GP, Sky Sports, the official F1 broadcaster, is trying to flog the dead horse that the title race has become, while ignoring the fact that Norris has conceded the title to Verstappen, as reported by the BBC and other media outlets. As far as the BBC and other media are concerned, the title race is over, but as far as Sky are concerned, there is everything still to play for. Okay, the commercial Sky, who are the official broadcasters, have a product to sell, so they have every reason to gas up the remaining 5 races. But the non-commercial BBC are eager to prove themselves worthy of joining the John Malone empire, so why are they saying the title race is over? Who is right and who are we to believe? In their coverage of the Mexican GP weekend, Sky opened with news of McLaren launching a shock bid to overturn Norris's penalty for the Verstappen overtake at the Austin GP. The message being that Lando was still in the title race as McLaren were fighting for every point. But this information was not significant enough for the BBC to mention, or change their conclusion. After all, McLaren had submitted the petition on Thursday, so why was there no mention of it in BBC's Friday coverage? Both broadcasters talked about Lando describing Max's driving as incorrect, so we know they have the same information. It therefore appears the BBC simply dismissed the petition. Just for the record, both broadcasters also wrote about Perez admitting that he had had a terrible season, so that was something they both agreed was newsworthy. But here's the clincher. Sky took the view that the world title fight has developed into a thriller ahead of final races, while BBC reported Norris saying that he's not quite at Verstappen's level. Now, how can there be a title fight between drivers at different levels? The BBC do not make clear that Norris made this admission on F1 television at the Mexico City Grand Prix on Thursday, making it appear as if he gave the interview to Benson. However, those comments are widely reported elsewhere, with the reporters making the source clear. So why did Sky omit this admission while building up the title fight that never was? I guess it may have to do with the fact that none of the media outlets that reported on Lando's admission talked about a title fight or anything resembling such. The truth of the matter is that soft Lando, like his fake hardman Bezzy mate, can only win titles through manipulation, so Lando needs to wait on John Malone. Unfortunately for them, Ferrari have upset the apple cart, so it will become harder for Malone to hand out trophies to his anointed. In the meantime, Sky's job of selling the fake title race is getting harder and harder, and this might explain why McLaren, who had initially declined to challenge Lando's penalty at the USGP, have now changed their mind. After all, that has provided Sky with the opportunity to spin the narrative that Lando is still in the hunt because McLaren are fighting for the point. Unfortunately, they forgot to tell Lando before his interview, so no one else is buying it, not even the other subservient media like the BBC. They may not be willing to incur the Emperor's wrath by declaring the title race dead, but they certainly couldn't bring themselves round to say it was alive either. This is what John Malone has turned F1 into, a sport where the truth is what the Emperor says it is. If you want to do something about it, then please sign our petition or complain directly to the BBC at BBC Sport on Twitter, or via their complaint page at the link provided in the description.